Latest football news, engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George. We're back for another week of football action as we cover it here, always on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. I hope you're all having a good week. It's been quite an eventful week, I think we could say in football terms, especially if you're a supporter of Ipswich Town or any of the supporters of Championship clubs or League One or League Two clubs. You know, that's been a very eventful week in those. But before I better move on and mention all our stuff that's coming up today, I better introduce our guest and our co-host as always, Dan. Dan, how are you doing? It's been a very eventful week in football, I think we can say.
It has, yeah. I'm doing all right, and it's been a classic last weekend of the season, hasn't it? Lots of drama throughout all the leagues. It's really good to see, isn't it? All this drama around.
God, it's why we love football. You know,
Yeah.
They try to take away from us. They didn't, and we've got the perfect drama, but we'll talk about that later on. Well, I better mention the social medias before we move on. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at Talk_Pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk if you want to listen back to any of our previous shows or see any other additional content we do. Yes, we do some other content. We do something called Fans Talk, where I talk to a fan and we talk about that first memories, all that. And that's on our YouTube channel, which is at Pitchside Talk. Well, what is coming up in today's show? So we're going to be talking about Ipswich Town, as always, their last game of the season and the Demolition Man taking effect. Yeah, he is. He's thrown a wrecking ball, I think we can say, at this Ipswich Town club. And there's, well, still more to come. It's only the tip of the iceberg at the moment. Premier League action. We unfortunately had two more clubs get relegated from the Premier League, and the champions were crowned as well this week, but we'll get onto that a little bit later on. And we'll be doing a little roundup of the Championship, League One and League Two to see who got promoted and who survived relegation on the final day of the season, which was absolutely, it was just drama. It was just action-packed everywhere, which is fantastic to see. But when we come back, we'll be talking about Ipswich Town and what has been really going on this week.
Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan, as always. Now, before we move on, talking about Ipswich Town this week, I better mention the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at Talk_Pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen to any of our additional shows that you in the past, or you want to watch any of our additional content we do on our YouTube, go and check it out and make sure you subscribe whilst you're there as well. Well, Ipswich Town, they played their final game of the season on Sunday, looking for a strong end to the season, which has been, well, pretty poor by their standards and has not met any of our expectations at all. Getting back up to the Championship, but and we've also seen plenty of change on and off the pitch as well this week. But firstly, the game and 3 goals equals 3 points as Ipswich Town won by 3-1 against Fleetwood. Dan, they saved their best to last, really. The whole season, they've been not good at all. Very 9-0 draws, goalless draws. And then the final game of the season, they turn up and win. Hurrah!
Yeah, I know. I was like, why couldn't we have played like this during games before this one during the season? Because it was like watching a different team, wasn't it? Attacking threat. We haven't seen that in so long. We 3-0 up after half an hour, which absolutely mental. I know it's the last game of the season. Both teams, not playing for anything. Fleetwood, they've had quite a disappointing season, I think, by their standards after they had a pretty good one last season, getting into the playoffs, didn't they? So, yeah, I think, a game where both teams have nothing to play for. So we just decided to go for it, which I guess was good to see because it was probably the best result out of Paul Cook's tenure so far. So, good to see goals going in for a lot of these players' last games, isn't it? They a lot of them players won't be here next year, so a good way to round it off, I'd say, round the season off. But we should have been doing this earlier. Come on.
Yeah, it feels like the honeymoon period is here. Can we continue? I'm quite surprised that fans don't say, can we just continue the season so we have wins? But It was the last game of the season. Well, after the game, Andre Giselle and Gary Roberts, Paul Cook's number 2 this season, they spoke to the media. And, well, they were pretty honest in their interviews. Giselle, he highlighted that the squad has underachieved, but they are looking forward now. Not looking back, so now looking forward. And, well, Roberts said that next season we have to go right. The overall feeling really is the season has been a disappointment, which the club, the staff, and the players are not shying away from, which is really good because I think under the previous management, who I will not mention his name, they would have blamed something else. There would have been, the fans, or we're playing the youth, or we've had many injuries, all this palaver, but they're not shying away from it. But next season, it is going to be massive. I'm already seeing the changes already, which we're going to get onto after this. But if it doesn't go right, the consequences here, Dan, are going to be massive. They might keep the club in League One for years to come, unfortunately.
Yeah, next season's a huge season, isn't it? Obviously, we're waiting for what's going to happen this summer, which is going to be, this summer's huge as well. I think I do wonder what these new owners will think if we don't go up next year. What they will do. Will they stay and try again? Will they, pump more money in? I don't know. But next year we've got to get out of this league because we just don't want to. We've already had 2 seasons in it. We don't want. We're going to have another one, but we don't want as much. We don't want up to 5 seasons in League One. We just don't want that. We miss the Championship. We want to be back in it. So I think Paul Cook and the owners have got a lot to do during the summer to get us ready for next season. Obviously, it's not that long away, is it? It's over the summer. It's 3 months, so we've got and before pre-season, I'd like us to have a full squad by pre-season. I think that's what we're aiming for, because we saw it with Paul Hurst. If you don't have a full squad at pre-season, it's not going to go very well. You can't really get the team to gel enough. So I'd like to see us get players in before then. So we've got 2 months to kind of get our squad to the way we want it to be, to the way Paul Cook wants it to be and the way he wants to play. So, yeah, this is, a massive few weeks coming up for the club. Massive changes, which, I think we're all glad that we're seeing it because we've been in a slog for so long. It's been terrible for 3 years. I'd say we were all right the season before that, but for 3 years it's just been really poor, hasn't it? And we haven't really seen anything to cheer about. So to see changes coming in quickly, it seems like it's happening quickly. It's really, really good to see. So yeah, big season next year. Hopefully we can do well with a new squad. I'm quite confident for it, actually. Seeing the new owners coming in, they have the resources to try and get us out of this league. So, I think the fan base is quite confident at the moment.
Are you that confident because you're wearing your Ipswich Town shirt today? Can I ask? Because you're wearing an Ipswich Town shirt.
Maybe that's just a coincidence, but but no, yeah, I'm more confident about this season than I have been in the last few. Let's just say that.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, a few weeks ago, Paul Cook, he highlighted himself as the demolition man, and he said that changes will be happening. And, well, only less than 24 hours after the victory against Fleetwood, the change already started to happen, and 2 of Ipswich Town's long-serving players have now officially left in Luke Chambers and Cole Skews. The pairs nearly made 700 appearances for the club over, I think, a 10-year spell for Chambers and a 9-year spell for Cole Skews. Dan, these 2 players here were so important for Town, really, on and off the field for so many years with their leadership, their experience. Paul Cook, he highlighted, he's saying that Chamber and Coles are exemplary pros. I wouldn't find a better role model for young players coming through. They've had a very, I think, for not lifting any trophies, they've had a very successful spell here, a longevity spell. They've been playing games consistently for year out of year, but it's so sad to see them go, and especially with no sort of proper send off in front of fans. That's really a big shame, I think, for both of them. I think, and also for James, it's a big shame that he unfortunately didn't get to really lift a trophy whilst he's here at the club. But are you able to sum up your thoughts of their time at the club? It's sad to see them go, but it feels at the moment that it's probably what the club needed, really.
Yeah, obviously it's really sad to see them go. They've been at the club. I got my first season ticket in 13, 14. They were both here at that point. So, it's been they've been part of the club for when I've the whole of my watching Ipswich, I guess. So it's going to be really weird to see them not here. Obviously both of them have been massive servants to this club. I think you're not going to find players that play for that long and have made such a difference with, the whole squad, I guess. Chambers, he's that type of person that's loud and, gets players fired up. He's a good guy as well, isn't it? He let the youngsters stay in his house. And he just helps everyone that comes in, I guess, which is good. And his passion for the club, and his relationship with the fans has been second to none since he came in. And same as Scouse as well. The experience that he has helped some of the younger players come through. And I think throughout his Ipswich career, he got a lot of undeserved hate, really, especially towards the end. I think a lot of people thought that he wasn't good enough, but he was always that type of player that could control the midfield and stop opponent attacks, really. He always did, really good tackles when the break was on. So, yeah, I think they're not the best players that I've seen at Ipswich, but they're going to be a big miss in the changing rooms. Definitely, it's going to be really odd. Not, I guess, for the players that stay, it's going to be really odd to have them, not in and around the squad. It'll be interesting to see if any two of them come back to the club at some point in the future. I think that's probably on the cards. They might go somewhere else first. I know Colchester has been linked quite heavily with these two. But yeah, I wish them well, and they'll always have, they'll always be welcome back. And it's going to be really sad to have a team that's, they're not in. It's going to be really weird to see. And I think the next captain, whoever it is, I'm expecting it to be someone coming in from elsewhere. He's got quite a lot to live up to, I think, after Luke Chambers being captain, definitely.
Yeah, it feels a bit like a bitter pill to swallow, but I think it's been on the cards for a little bit of time. But are you a little bit surprised, really? Because a lot of people are saying that Chambers maybe should have got another year at the club. I think a lot of people sort of, unfortunately, do agree that Cole Scouse, maybe he has passed his best ever so slightly. But with Chambers, do you feel that he maybe should have got an extra year at this club? Do you feel that should have happened?
Maybe. We all knew that it was going to be a season of change, didn't we? And I think that the older players, I think actually there was no one over the age of 30 that stayed, I think. So I think the older players are always gonna leave the club. And I think it was inevitable, really. And I think it was needed just for this summer of change. Obviously, it's really sad to see. And I wouldn't have minded if he got another year. I really wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been one of them like one other player, which I'll get onto later, getting a new contract. He wouldn't be one that I was annoyed about. But I think it was time for him to move on. I think, he's not going to have a lot of not a lot of time in his career now. And I think if he did stay with the players coming in that Paul Cook wants, I don't think he would have got a lot of game time, would he? I don't think he was really part of Paul Cook's plans. But, it's going to be hard to replace him in the dressing room, definitely, which, I guess Paul Cook might be trying to get that type of player in. But I think him leaving the club was inevitable. But it's still sad to see, obviously.
Yes, it is very sad to see. Well, two of Ipswich Town's longest serving players are gone, but the demolition work didn't stop there on Monday. In the evening, Freddie Sears, Emmy Hughes, Tristan Nydam and James Wilson were joining Luke Chambers, Cole Scouse, Alan Judge and Stephen Ward going through the exit door. some of these players, I think we expected were unfortunately going to be going. I think in Freddie Sears and Emmy Hughes, I think they've been rumoured out. And Emmy Hughes, I don't think Emmy Hughes has played since January, which is kind of crazy to think. And Sears has been in and out of the squad quite recently. But I think the two that really caused quite a lot of interest and a bit of intrigue was Tristan Nydam and James Wilson. Nydam, he's only just come back from that horrible ankle injury, which put him out for about 2 years. He's only had one game back in an Ipswich Town shirt quite recently, a few minutes on the pitch, hasn't played since. But Wilson as well, that's a bit of a weird one because I think we was on about maybe he should get a new contract. He was playing well at one point, and we have to say he was keeping Ipswich Towns in games. You know, he got that, helped us get that victory against Acton Stanley. Got that point against Lincoln. I think his only 2 goals really scored for the club. But it's a bit interesting that those two have gone as well.
Yeah, it is. That was a big shock for me. I was expecting both of them to still be here, and I think James Wilson, you know, he won Player of the Season, like the Ipswich Player of the Season, like 2 days before he left. So yeah, I think it's really unfortunate for him because he's probably been the standout player for me this season. He's been a very solid player. I think I was quite surprised by him actually because I think we just signed him from Lincoln. I think they just got promoted from League Two at the time.
Yeah,
and it was a bit of a
contract, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah. So it was just an emergency signing one because I think was Wolfenden injured, maybe something like that. So we needed a centre back in. Maybe not. Maybe someone else. Maybe Chambers was.
James was suspended, if I remember correctly, from the first 2 of the season, wasn't he?
Yes, because he got that red card against Leeds, didn't he? Yeah. So he came in and really surprised me. He done a really good job that season, and he carried on with that this season. So yeah, it was quite surprising to see that he was being, you know, released. I guess he wanted to choose between Toto and Wilson, didn't he? I think you had to choose between the two. I think both had pretty good seasons this year. Defensively, we haven't been too bad. So, you know, I think he was trying to choose one of the two, and he went with Toto in the end, which I was quite surprised about. But Nydam as well, that was another surprising one, especially since he's not really had a lot of game time in the last 2 years. I guess that could be the reason why he was released. But yeah, I feel sorry for Nydam, you know, coming back from that long-term injury, finally looking like you could get into the first team squad and getting released. It's really unfortunate for him and quite surprising because he looks like a really good player. You know, I haven't seen him play much, but from what I have seen, you know, under Mick, he was a really good player. I can't remember how many games he played under Mick, quite a few, I think. But he looks like a really good player, and I think he could probably do a job in League One. But obviously, he's not part of Paul Cook's plans. You know, the summer of change it keeps getting mentioned. They're not part of that, so I guess fair enough. But I think these two players were a massive surprise, definitely.
Yeah, I think they were a very big surprise because also about 10 minutes later, Ipswich Town confirmed the players who would be staying the option was being taken up on their extension. And Kane Jackson, Janoy Dinashian, Toto Enciada, Aaron Drinan. Yeah, his agent deserves a knighthood. I think that's all we're going to say here. El Mazzuni and Teddy Bishop, whose extension was triggered because he's played so many games, and currently Grion Edwards is still in discussions at the moment. Not too sure what's going on about that, but apparently MK Dons is kind of interested in him at the moment. But Dan, some interesting decisions here being taken on who's staying at the club. I think Aaron Drinan has shocked everybody. And Janoy Dinashian as well shocked a few people, but you said he was going to stay in your Stay or Go video. So that's kind of interesting. But the striking department, that's, you know, only one player's left out of the striking department. That's a little bit interesting, but is these players' contracts being taken up because of the value? And apparently there's reports coming out that Paul Cook has told some of the players who haven't been involved in this transfer, contract Siago, to maybe start looking at another club, and some of these players here who have been taken up on their extensions to start looking at another club.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It looks like we're just going to accept any offer that comes in, really, which, you know, is quite an interesting thing. That hasn't pleased some fans, but I'm okay with that. But yeah, I think striking department is very interesting because we'll still have if Jackson and Drynan stay, we'll have 4 strikers. That doesn't really leave a lot of room for another striker to come in, does it? So yeah, that's really interesting. I was expecting at least 2 of them to go, but both of them, Jackson and Drynan staying, really interesting. With Jackson, I think there's a player there, but I don't think he will suit Paul Cook's style of play really, because he likes to have that strong single striker up front with a quick players behind him. I guess Jackson could play in behind maybe, or maybe out on the wing. I think he did play on the wing a little bit under the previous management, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, but he's not really a winger, so I was quite surprised that he stayed. And Drynan, I just don't understand that. Nothing against him, but
No.
he's been very poor this year. So I really don't know what he's done to get a new contract, unless we're looking to loan him out maybe or something like that. But I just don't know why we're doing that. I don't really understand it. Donasian, I think he'll probably be on his way. I think he's had I haven't been his biggest fan. I think we all know that. But he definitely improved and played well last season when he had the chance. He hasn't really played that much. He hasn't really got the chance to show what he can do and have a run in the squad. And I think if he does stay, he still won't get any game time because Vincent Young's there, isn't he? So I reckon he'll be on his way as well. It was really interesting to see that we're trying to keep him. But I think them 3 are the only real surprise. I think the other guys, I'm okay with them staying if they do. But if any offers come in, they'll be going, which I guess is fair enough because Paul Cook wants to make his own squad. I don't know. It's a big risk, isn't it? Changing the entire squad, but this is a squad that has finished 9th and 11th in League One in 2 seasons. They haven't really shown enough. I think Paul Cook knows that and just wants to change it. And I think if we've got a higher caliber of player being linked with us and wanting to come in, then, bring it on.
Yes, bring on. Well, the demolition work, it has begun. And it looks like it's only just the tip of the iceberg. Well, I think for a lot of fans, I think they thought that was it. That it looks like at the moment it's going to be very much the tip of the iceberg. But what are you expecting really to happen over summer? I don't think anybody can expect what's going to actually happen over summer now, because I think we all thought one thing was going to happen, a load of players are going to come out, a load of players are going to come in, but it looks like it's going to be more than that. But what you expect to happen over summer, and what would you class as a good summer for the club? Having a brand new squad, players that are going to want to play, having a brand new squad, as you said there, before pre-season training. I think if they can do that, that would be pretty remarkable. And I think that would hopefully bode for a good season. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I hope that's the aim to get a full squad by pre-season. I'm maybe not expecting that to happen because we know what can happen after that. There might be offers come in. So I think that's what we need to aim for. I think in the next few weeks, we'll be linked with a lot of players. We've been linked to quite a few already. I think there'll be loads more links coming in over the next few weeks. But I think, after, I guess, this period of players not being sure whether they're staying or going, and decisions being made on the players already here, we need to start signing players. I think the transfer window opens next month sometime, the middle of next month. But we can sign free transfers before then. So I think we need to start really looking at who we need to bring in. I'm sure Paul Cook and the guys there I think Mark Ashton comes in on the 1st of June. So maybe that's when we'll start trying to, and I guess his team as well will try and start looking at players. So I reckon June is going to be a big month for us with players coming in. And it's going to be an exciting summer. I love a busy transfer window. Usually we get a transfer window where there's not really much going on. Transfer deadline day is usually just nothing for us. But actually this season, I hope it is nothing for us because hopefully we'll have the squad by then. But yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting summer. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm hoping Twitter will be busy and there'll be a lot of controversy and excitement and stuff. It's going to be good.
Yes, I hope so as well. Well, before I just let you guys know, we will be keeping you up to date with everything that happens in Ipswich Town over the summer period. So do not worry, this is going to be a one-stop shop for you, so you can see everything that has happened, what's going to happen really with Ipswich Town over the summer. Every transfer, we will make sure that is covered here on Pitchside Talk. Whew. It's been a mad week for Ipswich Town. I thought we were only going to have to talk about the game, a few rumours here and there, but the Demolition Man, he has started his work early. Why not? Don't blame him. So that is basically everything for Ipswich Town this week. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Premier League. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We've had plenty of action this week. We've had two more clubs have had their relegation confirmed for this season, and the champions have been crowned. Yeah, they didn't play and they got crowned. So we'll find out about that right after this.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. Now, before we move on, talking about the Premier League this week, I better mention the social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram is at Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud both at Pitchside Talk. And if you've missed anything from the show today, do not worry. At 6 p.m. on the YouTube and the Mixcloud, this will be up, available for catch up and listen back. So if you missed us talking about Ipswich Town, what happened in the Fleetwood game, and what's happened this week with the Demolition Man starting his work already, don't worry. You can listen to 6 p.m. on Friday. Now the Premier League, it was back in action this week, and we've had lots and lots of games. Too many to count, but not more than 10. That's how many. It's been a lot. But this week we've seen two teams confirm their relegation back to the champion from this season. So now the relegation battle, unfortunately, is over, and the champions were finally crowned. So I think we should just jump let's jump straight into this. If I can speak, I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself as always. Well, Fulham and West Brom's times in the Premier League are done and dusted after relegation was confirmed this week. After only one season in the Premier League, the time is up. Dan, for Fulham and West Brom, they've had a very disappointing return season back to the top flight. Both of them, the relegation has been written on the wall for a little bit of time. I think for West Brom, they were quite favourites to really go down, especially with Sam Allardyce coming in. There was a slight chance here and there, but unfortunately, inconsistency has prevailed for them. But for Fulham, they've had plenty of chances this season to stay up. I think at one point they were 1 point off Newcastle, and at one point they were 20 minutes of being outside that relegation zone when they were beating Aston Villa, and then it all went wrong from there. But for them, they've had plenty of chances, but it's all just gone wrong for them. They haven't taken them.
No, they haven't. There's been lots of chances for them, hasn't it? And I think it's hard when these clubs go into the Premier League. Obviously, we thought these two were going to be favourites for relegation at the start of the season, because we know, and everyone knows really, how hard it is for these clubs like Fulham and West Brom to be to go up to the Premier League and be competitive and stay up. Money is not in abundance at these clubs, and they've got to spend it wisely, haven't they? And it's not easy for them to stay up, and then they come down and then they're too good for the Championship. So I think it's really disappointing for West Brom and Fulham. I think Fulham especially, because as you said, they've had a lot of chances to kind of get out of that drop zone, and I think if they didn't have that poor start, they might have been able to do that. I think West Brom, they had a bit of a hope when Sam Allardyce came in, because we all know that Allardyce is good at keeping teams up. I think this is the first time he's been relegated from the Premier League. So yeah, that's quite disappointing for him, because obviously there was time for him to do that. I just think the squad wasn't good enough to stay in the Premier League, and that's kind of proven, hasn't it? So it'll be interesting to see if I think Parker and Allardyce will probably stay at them clubs unless they get offers from elsewhere. I think they'd rather have a job in the Premier League, if I'm being honest. But I think if they stick with these managers, they could try and I think they'll be probably favourites in the Championship next year to come straight back up. So it'll be interesting to see how they do next season.
Well, I hope they do, because I think they'll both be with safe hands. We've seen with Sam Allardyce, he got West Ham back up to the Premier League from the Championship first time asking. Parker, he done it as well in his first proper season with Fulham. He had that little spell at the end of when they got relegated. He got them straight back up. So I think they would be in safe hands, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Hopefully, they'll stay with him, because I think Scott Parker will be a good manager in the end of the day. And Sam Allardyce, we all know what Big Sam is like. Well, on Tuesday evening, Manchester City were crowned champions of the Premier League this season, the third time out of the last 4 years under Pep Guardiola. 5 titles now in the last 9 years. As their main and closest rivals, Manchester United dropped points to Leicester. They lost, so it means Manchester City won the Premier League without even playing. It's like last season. Liverpool won the league without even having to kick a football about. Fantastic. But Dan, your prediction for the champions, they came true. They happened. Well done. Congratulations. I would give you a handshake.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, we're not in the same room, so we cannot do that. And, COVID is a thing still, unfortunately. But Pep Guardiola, he described winning this title as the hardest one ever due to the amount of games they played. I think he said from December to March, it was a constant slog. And I think that's where we could say the title was won really by Manchester City. And also because of the COVID restrictions and protocols they've been in, it's made the season a lot tougher. And he said this season will be also to remember, and he thanked his players so very much. But as such a fantastic side, really, they've bounced back. I think perfectly honest, from about October, I don't think anybody would have seen Manchester City being back up there. They had that 5-2 loss to Leicester. They were mid-table at one point. They were 8th. They were nowhere near. We was more thinking, can they even get into? This has been more of a, can you get into the Champions League more than them winning the league? But they've pulled it out of the hat here, and they've humiliated every single team in the process here, and are deserved winners, I think we can say.
Yeah, definitely deserved, and a massive achievement from them to have such a poor start, and claw their way back and win the league by the amount of points they are ahead as well. I think it's credit to Pep and them players, because it's been such a good turnaround for them, and they've just been really good this year, haven't they? Now they're in the Champions League final. They've won the Premier League. It's just been a really successful season for them. I think the players in that Man City squad have just been too good this year. A lot of them have performed brilliantly. I think Phil Foden is probably the standout player from that, who's been absolutely excellent this year. I think Diaz as well at the back has been excellent as well. So, well, really their whole team has been excellent, hasn't it? I don't want to single out players in that whole squad. But yeah, massive achievement. And I think, we all knew that this was coming quite a few weeks ago, didn't we? It was just a matter of time. They have slipped up in the last few games, haven't they? They haven't been getting the results, but it's not really needed. So, Leicester helped them get to the title. And it's just deserved, isn't it? Because of how good they've been this year. And let's see if they can win the Champions League. Obviously, it's going to be a difficult game against Chelsea, but if they can do that, then what a season!
Yeah, well, that would be the icing really on the cake if they win that. I think that'd be probably their greatest season of all time. Perfectly honest, and they'll be on for the treble, technically. So we'll have to wait and see about it. But yeah, congratulations, Man City, on winning the Premier League title this season. Well deserved. And we'll have to see if you could defend it next season, which will probably be even tougher. And we'll have some fans back in, which is going to be fantastic. And also as well, it's going to be quite nice to be able to lift the trophy in front of 10,000 fans at the game. I think their home game against Everton. So that's going to be quite nice to see them lifting the trophy in front of fans, because we haven't seen that in a little bit of time, and it'll be nice. And we won't have this stupid thing where they're running around with a trophy around an empty stadium. It looks a bit awkward. It looks weird.
It does, yeah.
it does. It looks awkward. Let's just say that.
It does.
But yeah, that's everything for your Premier League roundup this week. And when we come back, we're going to be doing a catch-up on the final day of the Championship, League One and League Two, to see who got promoted and who got relegated from those leagues. So we'll be back right after this.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadio's Fridays at 5 p.m. Me, George and Dan as always. Now, before we move on, talking about the Championship, League 1 and League 2, a little catch up on what happened on the final day of the season of those leagues. I better mention the social media. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at Talk_Pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. And if you've missed anything from today's show, I was talking about the Premier League, Ipswich Town, what's been going on there. Quite a lot of demolition work, I hear. Don't worry, it'll be up at 6 p.m. on straight after the show. Sorry, at 6 p.m. Where you can listen back to the show for any of his parts on the YouTube and the Mixcloud. Now, this weekend, the Championship, League 1 and League 2, they came to an end with teams getting promoted, late drama in the playoffs, and relegation scares for some clubs. And we're going to just jump straight into this and start off with the Championship. And well, all the drama was happening at the bottom of the table as the champions and the other team were already confirmed who was getting promoted. We will not mention who the champions are on the show, just in case Stan gets a little bit annoyed. But for the bottom teams, had a chance of staying up. Wickham, they needed a miracle. I think they need to score 13 goals and then one game to draw, one game to lose for them to get survival. Unfortunately, that did not happen for them. But Rotherham, they just needed a win from their game against Cardiff and Derby and Sheffield Wednesday to be a draw, which was happening. But then Rotherham, managed to draw versus Cardiff, meaning that Derby and Wayne Rooney survived by the skin of their teeth. Just a point. Dan, what drama happened in the Championship? Absolutely crazy drama. Only this would happen in the Championship, I think we could both be honest. But Derby just surviving by the skin of their teeth. That is, gosh, that's an absolute fall down from where they were a few seasons ago.
Yeah, it's not good enough for them to be in that position, is it? A club like Derby, who still have some decent players in their squad. I know they use a lot of youngsters now, but it's still not good enough for them to be there. But yeah, this was classic Championship final day, wasn't it? There's always drama. It looked like both Sheffield Wednesday and Derby were going down at one point, which would have been really interesting to see both of them come down. But obviously Rotherham couldn't hold on at Cardiff. I think Rotherham, it's disappointing if you're a Rotherham fan, I think, because you know that you're too good for League One, and I reckon they'll probably get promoted next season. But whenever they're in the Championship, they just miss out every time. They just don't have enough to stay up. It's always really close, but they just don't have enough. I think Paul Warren is a decent manager. I think he'll do well next year with them in League One. So it's really unfortunate for them, but for Sheffield Wednesday as well, it's been a very, very poor season for them, hasn't it? Obviously, sacked their manager. They got Tony Pulis in. I think he lasted about 10 games, didn't he?
Yeah, production as well at the start of the season. That did not help.
Yes, of course, yeah. So it hasn't. That didn't help, obviously, but I think they did get a deduction, or it went from -12 to -6, didn't it?
Yes.
At some point in the season. But I still think there was enough for them to stay up. There was enough time. I think getting Darren Moore in was probably a good manager choice. I think at the time they probably thought they were going to go down, and I think he'll be a really good manager for them in League One. But I think the final day game against Sheffield Wednesday, between Sheffield Wednesday and Derby, it was such a good game, such twists and turns. After half time, Derby did so well to get 2 quick goals to go 2-1 up, and then they conceded 2 again. It was 3-2 to Sheffield Wednesday. I was like, wow, where is this going to go? But Derby stayed up by the skin of their teeth. I think the thing that annoys me the most about that is Wayne Rooney, by other clubs, is seen like a saviour for Derby, but he hasn't had the best record since he's come in, has he?
No.
It's not been great. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to do well with Derby next year. It'll be very interesting to see, what happens with the owner situation and what players they bring in and so on. But yeah. I think for Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham, it's been disappointing. I think actually Wickham as well. I think Wickham can hold their heads high. They gave it a real good go. You know, they're by far the lowest income in the Championship. So, you know, they gave it a go. They're coming back down to League One next year. Let's see what they can do. But I think overall, I think Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham be very disappointed with that season.
Yes, well, Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham and Wickham are coming back down to League One. We'll just quickly run through the League One because nothing much really happened there. Only a little bit of drama in the last place for the playoff places this season between Portsmouth, who are currently holding that place, Oxford United and Charlton. They were chasing them very closely. I think it was only 2 points in it, something like that. Oxford, they won against Burton, so that put them into that place. But then Charlton, they won against the champions of Hull. So that put them just in nip and tuck, just. But Portsmouth, they slipped up against Acton Stanley, losing 1-0. I mean, they dropped down to 8th. Oxford, they snatched that playoff place away from them. And Charlton, who had the same amount of points, but goal difference played its part. And it means they missed out by, I think, a few goal difference. Not much, but, you know, crazy drama and massive disappointment for Pompey. And we'll just move on to League Two, which saw a final day showdown for the title between Cheltenham, Cambridge and Bolton. But Morecambe, they could have sneaked into the automatic playoff places if Bolton or Cambridge United had lost. And they needed to win, which they did. But unfortunately, those two sides did not slip up. So Cheltenham, they went up as the champions, and Cambridge and Bolton will be joining them in League One for next season. Some brilliant news, you know, Cheltenham back in League One, first time since the 08/09 season. Cambridge, they're back in League One since the 03/04 season, and Bolton straight back up at the first time of asking at the first attempt, which is really good to see because unfortunately their demise has been quite well documented over the last few years. And it's good to see them having finally some positive news, which is good to see. And, you know, I can't wait for Cambridge versus Ipswich Town next season. It's going to be a fantastic local derby. We haven't got we need a local derby. That's going to be the closest game we're going to have for a little bit of time, you know?
It is, but it's just not a derby, is it? It's just not a derby.
You're not impressed, are you? But it is a derby. Come on.
It's not. It's Cambridge. Come on. They're not exactly... It's just not.
I love your reasoning there.
It might be for them. It's probably their biggest game of the season, isn't it? Coming to Portland Road, but it's not for us.
No, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe some of them might stay in the league for a little bit longer. We'll have to wait and see. And that is everything for your Championship League One and League Two catch up there. We will keep you up to date on what happens in the playoff fights as well. Who will be in the playoff finals and who will be going up to who will be going up their leagues as well. Who will be joining Norwich and Watford in the Premier League? I didn't mean to mention that name there, Norwich. Sorry. Oops, forgot the rule. But when we come back, we're just going to have a little bit of time for a football roundup. And Dan's got some interesting news for us, I think.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. Now, we're just going to jump straight into this. We've got a football roundup. Here we go. Dan, I hear you want to go first, and you've got some interesting news for us about Ipswich Town, Youth Cup, and all sorts.
Yes, so more Ipswich news that we couldn't fit in the Ipswich bit because it was quite long. So yesterday, Ipswich under-18s took on Liverpool under-18s in the FA Cup, the FA Youth Cup semi-final. You know, a massive achievement for them to get to the semi-final, which was a big surprise, and coming up against Liverpool. You know, a Category A academy. I think Ipswich are a Category B, or was it 1 and 2? I can't remember.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think Liverpool were favourites going into it, but Ipswich put up a really good fight. You know, went into half-time 1-0 up, defended really, really well. Unfortunately, Liverpool were just too good for them in the second half, and they lost 2-1. But, you know, massive achievement for them to get to the semi-final, made the club proud, made themselves proud. So, you know, they should keep their heads held high after that result. So really good for them. And then the other bit of news, first team squad news now. We've got a new coach starting, Francis Jeffers, who actually was on loan at Ipswich not that long ago. I think 2006, 2007, maybe.
Yes.
I didn't see him play myself, but I know that he was on loan here. An interesting choice because He's been, I think, in the Everton Academy set up for around 5 years now. Hasn't really had any first team experience. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table at Ipswich. Let's see what he can do.
Yes, lots of people, if you don't know, he was nicknamed Fox in the Box when he started at Everton. He was a promising young striker at Everton. Then he went to Arsenal. And then we don't talk about it from there because it didn't go too well for him. Well, I've got some news here. I've got some Champions League news. So the final's supposed to be hosted in Istanbul, but because the UK has now made that a red country, so it means that they advise people not to travel at all to the country because Turkey is currently in lockdown at the moment. UEFA have been discussing about where it will be held next, and it looks like Portugal is set to hold the Champions League final season as it has not received guarantees from receptions from the UK government to have the game in Wembley at this current moment of time. Wembley is still hotly rumoured, but it looks like Portugal now will be the front runner. So this final will be hosted in Porto, where last year it was hosted in Lisbon instead. So it's going to be hosted in Porto, not Lisbon. So it's going to be hosted at Porto Stadium, but it looks like it's going to be confirmed in the next few days where it will be held. But it looks like Porto is the front runner, which is a shame, but unfortunately it can't happen. But at least fans will be able to travel to Portugal as it is a green light country. And it's actually, as we've just got it there, breaking news, it has just now been moved to Porto.
I just saw that, news. Just coming through.
Just been breaking news, so it's now going to be hosted in Portugal this year and not England, which is a shame, but at least fans will be able to travel to the final. And that is everything for the show this week. It's been a jam-packed show, Dan. Thank you very much. Will you be joining me next week? We'll be talking about Ipswich Town. There'll probably be some more demolition work happening. FA Cup final this week. Oh my God, that's happening. That's going to be mad. And that's going to have fans. And we're going to have fans back in stadiums from the 17th onwards. Here we go.
Yeah, will be interesting. I'll be here next week. So yeah, fans back, which is good.
Yes, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Well, before we go, Ben mentioned the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is @talk_pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our pre shows or this one, if you missed anything, don't worry. It'll be up in a few minutes. 6 p.m. on Fridays to hear back what we talked about today about Ipswich Town Premier League and the roundup around the EFL leagues. Well, I've been George. He's been Dan as always. We'll see you next week and ciao.
Yeah.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.